name's Mr. Omar Tuli. I'm a martial arts enthusiast. I'm here today to introduce a special guest on behalf of Nazim Khan of the Ummah Channel and Blackburn Radio. So Assalamu alaikum to all my brothers and sisters, Namaste, and Hare Krishna and Sasrikal to all out the face. I'm here on behalf of them today, and I'm with Guru Susanto Das, who is a Southeast Asian and Indian martial artist, and he's here today to share his knowledge around Silat in particular. So without any more delay, I'll introduce you to Guru Susanto Das. Good evening.
Good evening. Nice to be here.
Nice of you to come here.
Thank you.
Please give us a little background of yourself, first of all, with your introduction to the martial arts and how it all came about for you.
Well, that's a very long story, but I'll try to be as brief as possible. My martial arts journey started off when I was about 8 years old, and it started off due to racism. My father had restaurants where he used to employ Bangladeshi workers, Indian workers, Pakistani workers, some as waiters and chefs. And unfortunately, at that time, there was a lot of racism. And so people used to come into the restaurant and fight, not want to pay for their bill, or causing some sort of vandalism. And so, my family used to live on top of the restaurant. So, we'd always hear the altercations that were happening downstairs. And by chance, what happened was a lot of the waiters and chefs happened to be martial artists. So they used to train me up in lunchtime breaks, and there used to be a big storage at the back of the restaurant, storage space. So lunchtime and before they used to start work and so forth, they would get together and they would train. So, some were doing Shotokan karate, some were doing Laogai kung fu, different martial artists, different martial arts styles, but their profession was the chef or waiter in the catering business. So that's how I really got my first taste into martial arts. And they used to watch the old Bruce Lee movies and Jackie Chan movies. So I used to sit, and also the staff at that time used to also live on top of the restaurant. They used to have their own particular rooms. And they used to get together and they used to watch movies together and play games, like carrom board and chess and this and that together to pass the time. So, I grew up with my father's, workers in his restaurant, basically with martial arts. And then when I was about 13 years old, I was actually beaten up at school to death by neo-Nazis, their children and so forth. And I was in a coma for 2 weeks. They were going to switch off the machine and so forth like this. And it's quite a traumatic time for my family. And I remember I had an uncle on the left-hand side next to the bed who was doing his 5 daily prayers, Islamic prayers. My mum was on the right-hand side, washing my face with a flannel, and my father in front of me. And there was a policeman and an Irishman from the community here, from the town that I live in. And I remember the police, when I woke up from the coma, saying to my father, there's nothing much that they could do. And for me to leave the town and the family, to close down the business and move elsewhere. But cut a long story short, that little Irishman, he was the head of, the ethnic minorities in my town, the Irish people and so forth like this. And they had suffered a lot of racism too. And they had their own little community gatherings and so forth, and they brought up this subject, of me getting beaten up and to death, by grown adults and other children, because I was the only Asian kid in the whole school at that time, during those periods, which is the 80s and so forth like that, quite a while back, over 30 years ago, 40 years ago, so, And so when I came out, I started to hang around with these Irish friends and so forth, and up until that point in time I was very masoom, very innocent type of child, So whatever martial arts I did for fun. I didn't know what racism was. I didn't know what difference between religion, skin colour, this and that. You know, like any children, you know, being Muslim. But that kind of woke me up. You know, that experience woke me up. Going out with these Irish elders made me politically aware, you know, and aware of the dangers out there in the world. So that's what really got me into seriously wanting to study martial arts. And from the age of 13, I started studying I was studying martial arts before that, but I took it serious after the age of 13, that incident. And I started training in Shotokan karate, Shaolin Kung Fu with the late Grandmaster Donisu, Shotokan karate. I trained with Sensei Robin Pacman, a great teacher who helped change my life and, you know, outlook. I was good friends with his son, Robin Pacman Jr. and his wife, you know, and they were like a surrogate parents to me in that sense. They really looked after me, took me to competitions, Crystal Palace. They were part of the KUGB. I ended up meeting Sensei Anoida, legendary karate master, you know, Shotokan karate master Sensei Kanazawa, all these other greats that ended up Terry O'Neill, people like this, you know, through these events. Now, at the time, being a kid and seeing these great masters and how they conducted themselves had a great impact on me, you know. And it got to a point where I was seeing that the karate wasn't really working for me, you know. So I would jump to arts like Wing Chun, and I started that at a very young age with Sifu Clive Potter, who happened to be a social worker at that time, youth worker at Alma Road Youth Club in St Albans. So, and he is the one really that taught me how to use martial arts in reality and how to use the arts against a bigger person. Because with karate and some of the other kung fu styles that I was doing, I was seeing that it would work, but relatively against someone my own size, you know. And it's not like the movies; it's about survival. It'll help you to survive, so the ratio that would increase of your chances of survival. You know, it's not about winning or losing, like in competitions. It's not about ego. You know, it's purely about protecting yourself so you could live another day. You know. And especially because I was living in a neo-Nazi town almost, you know, where the town was split. You know, you had your Irish, you had your Jamaicans and other ethnic minorities that were together and so forth, you know, and split, you know, South Hatfield. Then you had Hatfield Town and Birchwood, which was more of your racist, neo-Nazi kind of blood and honor, combat 18 type of mentality, you know, that didn't really appreciate anything foreign. In the town. So I grew up in that environment. So I needed something that was practical, you know, against all sizes and mentalities, even against weaponry and so forth. You know, I remember I was involved in an anti-Nazi League march in Hemel Hempstead a very long time ago, and someone pulled out a blade on me, and I've still got the scar on my hand, you know, to this day. And I disarmed the person. I can't tell you what happened after, but at least I survived. Now, had it not been for my training, practicality from Sifu Clive, and by that time I'd started Silat, you know, I wouldn't be here today.
Where did you come across Silat? Where was your first experience of Silat, and how did you find that?
Well, this is what I was going to come to, was basically it got to a point, because I was quite a spiritual kid when I was young, you know, and growing up alone, you know, I was a bit of a loner in a sense, because the people around me didn't really appreciate the differences of my skin colour and so forth, you know. So I didn't really have friends that were my age group. Most of my friends were elder men, you know, and I would spend time with wise elder men, you know, and learning life lessons. So it came to a point in my martial arts where I got fed up, you know, in a way of the violence. The attitude of this kind of fight combat mentality, you know. So I kind of prayed and I asked, you know, the divine, if he could send me gurus of traditional spiritual martial art, something that could help me cultivate myself as a human being, something that is not just about violence, but something that enables me to see my own shortcomings and enables me to overcome them, and over time get not only physically strong but mentally more confident as a human being, and decide on a process that enables me to have clarity, where I can see the true nature of things and make appropriate decisions in life. So something that would help me navigate through life, basically. And something that would have one foot in the past, meaning a connection to the ancient times, you know? Because I've always loved history and ancient places, architecture. I've always loved the mystical, spiritual aspects of religion, shamanism, and so forth, you know, from around the globe, you know. So what happened was, soon after I prayed, at the age of 13, during this time period, you know, of, you know, coming out of coma, I met certain Silat gurus, Guru Richard de Boards of the Harimau Silat system, Pat Rusli, who taught Mega Chimande, and he was a student at that then time Hatfield Polytechnic, which is now the University of Hertfordshire. So I ended up meeting certain Silat masters up until the point when I was about 16, and I met my true Silat master, Bapa Adina al-Rashid, who was a country services officer and Bugis royalty from eastern Indonesia, a place called Sulawesi. And he really taught me the depths of Silat and the beauty of Silat, the history of Silat, the culture of Silat, and what it means to be a practitioner of Silat, an adept of Silat. And the beautiful thing about Silat is that it's transferable, meaning you gain transferable skills for life. It helps you navigate through life, for employment, job interviews, this and that, you know. It gives you that confidence, and it gives you the confidence to avoid negativity, avoid toxic energies, peoples, environments, and having the wisdom to do that. You know, it goes beyond knowledge and it goes into the realm of experience, experiential realization. And it's very social based, shall I say, you know. It's the Guru taught me, Bapa Guru taught me, you know, it's about becoming a good human being. In Islam, Sufism, they call this concept Insani Kamil. Within the Buddhist Silat, they call this Sirina Pese. Or someone Ta'ugi, meaning someone who has a big heart, a magnified heart, one who knows his humanity and knows the secret of humanity and can live with that humanity in the world, exemplifying it with good conduct, good manners. In Islam they call it akhlaq, in Silat we call it adab and adat, which is culture, a physical culture, which is from the heart. So I trained with Bapa Adin al-Rashid for quite a while, until I went to university in Staffordshire to study for my law degree. Then I trained with other masters as well. Pat Arafin Mahiddin of the Sani Silat Haq system, Pat Din Mahiddin of the Silat Harimau Haq system. Most of them, they were Bugis, up until my most recent teachers, like Guru Pakcik Zainal Abidin, International Silat Guru. And he was really open-hearted with me as well, you know. He's from Malaysia, Penang. And he taught me also about the culture of Silat, Malay culture. Not only about the martial arts, about the plays, the legends of Hang Tuah, Hang Jabat, and these other people, you know. And then there's other teachers like Bapa Guru Haji Idris bin Ali Muda or Silat Firasha. Most of these are Sufistic natured martial arts. And they kind of follow the philosophy of Sufism, mainly. Not completely, mainly because Silat itself has a very ancient history that predates Islam. And it goes to the Hindu, Buddhist, shamanistic eras and the people that actually influenced Silat. So the migration of royalty and people like the Chinese that migrated to Nusantara, Indonesia, Malaysia, and all these places, they brought their arts with them. This became over time Silatified. So certain arts like that would be called Kuntao. So it kind of shows that Chinese kind of origin, to say, you know. So they brought their arts, they brought their philosophy, Buddhist, Taoist philosophy. They got it amalgamated with already existing Malay philosophy. Malay philosophy was animistic, shamanistic, and Hinduist, Hinduist, Sanatan Dharma, Buddhist in nature, previous to the arrival of these other religions. And then finally, certain Sufis from South India, other parts of Arabia, places like this via India, came to Malaysia and Indonesia. And there was a renowned group called the Wali Songo, the Nine Saints. And they belonged to mostly Naqshbandi Tariqa of Sufism. And, but not all of them, but mostly, some were Qadiriya, some were, different Khalwatiya and so forth like that. And they ended up introducing Sufism to the warriors there, the royalty, the kings, the queens, and they ended up intermarrying with them and so forth. And over time, the kings, the royalty adopted Sufism, and so did the Silat masters. And they kept that which they valued from Hinduism, Buddhism, that didn't go against their Sufistic new beliefs, intact, in their culture, the warrior culture, the physical culture. And so this Silat became a syncretic art, a hybridized art that took the best of a lot of countries, China, India. India had a big influence in Silat from ancient times as well, not just the Chinese with the Kunta, also Silambam and so forth. It's clearly seen, within it. But what most important is the Sufi values, the methodology of teaching that it's not just about fighting others, it's about fighting one's ego, fighting oneself, sharpening our character, having Silat Liga, which means Silat of the tongue, to be able to navigate through life, learning how to be a man, a person, a human being of the heart, cleansing ourselves, purifying our mind, how to learn to be within the present, how to see through firasha, the true nature of things, and to have control over our emotions, but at the same time to embrace our emotions and to express our humanity, you see. And Sufism brought a new dimension, Islam brought a new dimension to Silat, where it brought in concepts of certainty. They call it yaqeen, sincerity, certainty, ikhlas, clarity, marifa, knowing, gnosis. So Silat became a way of eventually connecting with everything and connecting with the divine. Some say above there, all around us, within us. And some say just within us. But there's Quranic verses, that support both. For the viewers, in the Quran it says, wherever you turn is the face of your Lord. Also the Quran says, neither the heavens nor the earth contained me, but the heart of my believing servant.